Hi, everyone, and welcome to Brian's Horror Corner. I'm your host, Brian, and welcome to day 23 of my 31 horror movies in October Halloween series. So today we're going to be taking a look at a sort of a modern day horror classic, most people would say, and that is the original Saw from 2004, directed by James Wan. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the setup, the premise, and the cast, and then I'll give you my review, which will be spoiler free. So, Saw is a 2004 American horror film directed by James Wan in his feature directorial debut, and written by Lee Winnell from a story by Wan and Winnell. It is the first installment in the Saw film series and stars Winnell, Carrie Elwes, Danny Glover, Monica Potter, Michael Emerson, Ken Loon, and Tobin Bell. The film tells a nonlinear narrative revolving around the mystery of the Jigsaw Killer, who tests his victims' will to live by putting them through deadly games, where they must inflict great physical pain upon themselves to survive. The frame story follows Jigsaw's latest victims, Winnell and Elwes, who awaken in a large, dilapidated bathroom, with one being ordered to kill the other to save his own family. So basically, we're introduced to photographer Adam Stanheight awakens in a dilapidated bathroom with his ankle and chained to a pipe. Across the room is oncologist Dr. Lawrence Gordon with the corpse of an apparent suicide victim between them, holding a revolver and a micro cassette recorder. Both men find a tape in their pockets, and Adam retrieves the recorder. Adam's tape urges him to escape, while Gordon's tells him to kill Adam by 6 o'clock, or his wife Allison and daughter Diana will be killed. Adam finds a bay containing two hacksaws inside the toilet, which they try to use to cut through the chains, but Adam's saw breaks. Gordon realizes the saws are meant for their feet and identifies their captor as the Jigsaw Killer, a serial killer testing his victims' will of survival through a murderous contraptions referred to as games, whom Gordon knows of because he was once a suspect. 5 months prior, Gordon, while discussing the terminal brain cancer patient John Kramer, was interrogated by Detective David Tapp and Stephen Singh, who found his pen light at the scene of one of Jigsaw's crimes, or one of Jigsaw's games. Gordon's alibi cleared him, but he agreed to view the testimony of heroin addict Amanda Young, the only known survivor of one of Jigsaw's traps. After Gordon's release, Tapp and Singh found Jigsaw's warehouse using the videotape from Amanda's game. There they apprehended Jigsaw and saved a man from a trap, but Jigsaw escaped after Singh triggered a shotgun trap in the hallway that killed him. So that's sort of the setup and the premise of the movie. Cast wise, we have Lee Winnell as Adam Stanheight, who's also the partial writer and producer of the movie. Or I guess just writer. Lee Winnell stars in the movie's Adam Stanheight. Carrie Elwes as Lawrence Gordon. Danny Glover's David Tapp. Ken Loon as Detective Stephen Singh. Dina Meyer as Detective Allison Carey. Michael Emerson as Zepp Hindle. Shonda Smith as Amanda Young. Shawnee Smith. Monica Potter as Allison Gordon, and Tobin Bell as Jigsaw / John Kramer. So yeah, that's the setup for Saw and the cast. I'll preference this by saying that this is actually the only Saw movie that I own, and quite frankly that I like. I know it's a very popular franchise for a lot of people, but to me, this was the only movie that, and I have seen, I think through part five, like two, three, four, and five, and I thought two was okay, but basically after this movie they started taking the psychological out of it, and it all just became about trying to outdo the traps from the previous movie, and much more gory. And to me, what I found interesting about this movie is it's not necessarily overly gory. I mean, there's ideas in your head that make it gory, but really this is more of a psychological horror movie in a lot of ways, and a very unique one at that. So I'm a big fan of this movie, though I really like the original Saw, just not really a big fan where I need to own the rest of the franchise. Um, so I'll just kind of get into my pros and cons to Saw, the original, as I see it. First of all, you have to start with the fact that it has a really unique and interesting concept that was new and refreshing at the time that this movie came out. they were able to combine gore and blood with a really psychological, terrifying idea, which is, somebody basically not just killing you, stalking and killing you, but actually putting you inside of these contraptions and these traps to play a game that basically is going to involve you doing bad things to yourself or somebody else. So that was just really, it was just so unique in the early 2000s at that time. Nobody had ever really seen anything quite like it before. Now, of course, it's been copied and it's been done. But at that time, it's just a really unique idea. It has one of the greatest ending twists in horror movie history. I think most people have seen this and we know what I'm talking about. It was a twist that I definitely didn't see coming, and sometimes I can see twists coming, where it's kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense that they would do that, or but this one completely, it kind of left me wide-eyed with my mouth on the floor, to be honest with you, my jaw, I should say, and just a very effective twist for this movie that was set up, and I can still enjoy the twist and find it satisfying despite having seen this movie probably 10 or 15 times at this point. There's just something about it with the music and just the whole shock of it all. It just works so well. So that's definitely a pro. James Wan's brilliance really shined through right away. It's clear that this guy had a lot of talent, and it really shines through in this movie, not just with the writing, but also it's a very well directed movie, especially given the fact that they had a very low budget for this movie. It was just like I think like 1.2, 1.3 million dollars, which is for a Hollywood movie, that's nothing. And of course, they made like 103 million on it. So that, needless to say, they made a killing on this movie. But that's how you know you have talented writers and directors. They can take a movie, an idea, with very little money, and make it successful, make it come across to the audience as wanting to see it, as frightening, as just having a lot to say. And this movie certainly does. And I think Juan just did a masterful job with that. I have to give Lee Winnell some credit as well with the writing. For the most part, I thought that worked well, but the directing really brings it home. Especially, like I said, given the very low budget for this movie. Obviously, you have the introduction of Jigsaw, a very sinister and mind playing type of villain. Again, he's not somebody that's going to stab you in the back when you're not looking. He does it in a more sinister psychological way. He basically puts you in a position to stab yourself in the back or do something heinous to yourself or someone else, which again is just very unique. But obviously, he's become one of the great horror icons in horror history, movie history. It spawned seven more movies after this, well, six in the original series, and they had Saw Spiral, which I'm not sure if that's, and I think they had a remake. I don't know how many Saw movies there are, to be honest. Somewhere between seven and nine total, I think, at this point, because I thought there was a remake. I know there were seven of the original series. Um, and then I think they did a remake, and then they did Spiral, which just came out earlier this year. I'm not sure. Somebody can comment down below in the comment area if you know, but I know it spawned at least seven more movies. So obviously, it's that villain is that Jigsaw is one of the he's right up there with Freddy and Jason and Michael and all that, even though he hasn't been around as long. I really enjoyed the mystery aspect of this movie and the psychological aspect, which is why I'm not as big a fan of the sequel movies after this one, because I felt like they just kind of got away from that and got more to, let's just see the most disgusting way that we can kill people and the most creative traps that we can have. And I don't know. I guess that's cool to some people, and that's great. But for me, it just doesn't really hold a lot of water for me. But I enjoyed the mystery aspect of this movie, and especially how they told it in terms of how people got to where they are, where they found themselves, in the sort of flashback style of the movie that gets the viewer informed up to present day. Sort of the non-linear narrative, I guess, around the mystery. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it really landed well in this movie. Um, Very strong. This movie has interesting themes as well, testing people's will to live and what they are willing to do to protect themselves and others that they love through deadly games, which is both compelling and terrifying, which is why it makes an effective horror movie, I think, because how far are you willing to go? A lot of normal people in this movie are just everyday people, have to put in a position to do really bad things. are you willing to do it, or are you willing to die yourself? It's just, I don't know. It really asks you a lot of questions, and it's really just an interesting and terrifying, as I said, compelling and terrifying. So, yeah, those are my pros and the reasons that I really like Saw. I think it's a really well directed, well delivered story with a decent amount of gore. But like I said, the gore, they have more cutaway shots um, in this particular movie because of the but partially because of the low budget. But I think Juan also understands horror better than some other directors do. As far as some of the cons go, I do have a couple. Some of the low budget aspects of the movie do stand out, specifically in terms of how the movie looks and the effects that they use. They really stand out, not in a good way. I like kind of a grainy looking movie, but the cinematography in this movie is really it really suffered because of the low budget. It really doesn't hold up well. Also, some of the acting isn't great, especially in the main scene between Carrie Elwes and Lee Winnell. I didn't think that some of their dialogue and delivery is not great. Kind of like when Carrie Elwes yells "fuck this shit." He just does it in a way that's like it makes you laugh, quite frankly. And yeah, just their back and forth. I don't know. Some of There's just some over the top acting with poor delivery. Some of it is the writing too, which falls back onto Lee Winnell again. He wrote it and acted it. Neither one of them landed all the time for me. I mean, I wouldn't say they were terrible throughout the movie. There's just certain moments and scenes throughout that main scene in the bathroom, the dilapidated bathroom that they're in, that most of the movie's in. And then finally, Danny Glover's character of Tap. I'm a big Danny Glover fan, but I'm not really sure why he was in this movie. His character felt really underdeveloped, and I kind of wanted more motivations for his character that we didn't really get in this movie. So that was kind of disappointing. It's kind of like, especially after he got let go or he quit the force because his partner got shot. But he kind of became obsessed with Jigsaw. It just kind of felt forced in there a little bit. I don't know, that character just didn't really work for me. But other than that, guys, I mean, what can you say about Saw? It's one of the movies people think about most when they think about horror movies of the last 20 years. It's actually a really good Halloween October watch as well. It's a movie I think about for Halloween, even though it obviously has nothing to do with Halloween in terms of the atmosphere or when it takes place. But yeah, I mean, what can you say about Saw? The tagline or one of the reviews: "Saw will make your blood run cold." Um, but yeah, I think it's still a really effective film even today, even though we've had a lot of copycats and more gore and things like that in movies. But like I said, I enjoy the mystery, the psychological aspect, the storytelling, the non-narrative storytelling, the directing, even though the effects and the acting don't always hold up. And the twist. Again, I'm a big fan of great twists, especially when I can't predict them and don't see them coming. So I got to give this movie an 8.5 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 for the original Saw from 2004 by James Wan. Go ahead and comment down below, guys. Tell me what you think of the original Saw, pros and cons as you see them, and also try to convince me why I should watch more of the movies. What you like about the sequels to Saw? I'm not closed minded. I'm willing to give another movie a watch, and I actually haven't seen parts 6 and 7. So let me know if I should watch one of those, if I can get something more out of it than just traps and gore. Um, but yeah, please like this video, hit the little notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my overall horror content coming up, be it the rest of this 31 horror movie series in October or me reviewing a classic television anthology coming up in November, which I'm very excited about. So thank you for watching this video. Have a great day. Stay scared. Bye.